Hello students, how are you all? I hope all of you doing well at homes. So this is Dr. Ashok Kumar Taduri, and as a part of our online classes today we are going to enter into the second part of first module, that is isomerism. So today we will discuss about isomerism. Okay, so in this isomerism there are some important content that we have to discuss there. Okay, so what are isomers and their classification. Okay, we also have to discuss about symmetry and chirality, and also about optical activity and absolute configuration, and the final one is about the conformation analysis of n-butane. What is isomerism? So isomerism is the phenomenon where more than one compounds have same chemical formula but different chemical structures. Okay, so chemical compounds that have identical chemical formula but different properties and the arrangement of the molecules are called isomers. So isomerism is a phenomenon where more than one compounds have the same chemical formula but different chemical structures. Okay, chemical compounds that have identical chemical formula but different properties, and the arrangement of atoms in the molecule are called isomers. So isomerism is classified into two types: structural isomerism and stereoisomerism. Okay, so the isomerism is divided into structural isomerism and stereoisomerism. Okay, under structural isomerism there is chain isomerism, positional isomerism, and functional isomerism are there, and under stereoisomerism, okay, there is geometrical isomerism and optical isomerism are there. Okay, so this structural isomerism is also called as constitutional isomerism. Structural isomers are molecules with the same molecular formula but their atoms have different arrangements or bonds. In structural isomerism, the atoms are arranged in a completely different order. This is easier to see with specific examples. What follows looks at some of the ways that structural isomer can arise. Okay, so if you see the structural isomers, these are the molecules with same molecular formula but their atoms have different arrangements or bonds. Okay, means in this structural isomerism the atoms are arranged in a completely different order. Okay, so for example, if you see the structure of butane, okay, this butane can be arranged in a chain manner, or okay, one of the methyl group can be branched either at second position or third position. So if it is at second position, then isomers of butane is called isobutane. Okay, so that's why even though the butane structure is different here, but the chemical formula is same. Okay, so that's why these comes under structural isomers. Among these structural isomers, the first isomerism is called chain isomerism. Chain isomerism arises due to the difference in the arrangement of carbon chain within the molecule. Okay, so there is a difference arises because of the arrangement of carbon chain within the molecule, then that is called chain isomerism. So chain isomers are made up of two or more carbon or other compounds with the same molecular formula but different atomic arrangements or branches. Imagine removing one carbon compound and its attachments from a chain and attaching them to another carbon compound within the chain. For example, if you take the example of pentane, which has the molecular formula CH12, has three different chain isomers. Okay, so let's see the following illustration where we can find out the pentane and isopentane are the chain isomers of each other. Okay, so chain isomerism have the difference in the arrangement of carbon chain within the molecule. So if you see the example of pentane here, okay, so the first pentane is a straight carbon chain. So when we switch the methyl group of pentane, which is circled in red, with the hydrogen atom on the carbon chain, we will have a chain isomer. So isopentane is the chain isomer that we have got because of the arrangement of one of the methyl group. Okay, so with the hydrogen atom of the carbon chain. So the following example of neopentane, another chain isomer of pentane. So neopentane results from the exchanging of the methyl group on the left with the hydrogen atom, which is circled in red, as well as the other methyl group on the right with the hydrogen atom, which is circled in blue. By switching the hydrogen and methyl groups on the pentane chain, we change the way of the atoms bond with each other. Here we can see all three chain isomers of pentane. Second type of isomerism is called positional isomerism. In positional isomerism, the basic carbon skeleton remains unchanged, but important groups are moved around on that skeleton. Okay, so the position of the carbon skeleton cannot be changed, but whatever the functional groups are there, they can be moved around the same skeleton. So positional isomerism occurs due to the difference in the position occupied by substituent atom or group or the unsaturation in the chain. So most of this positional isomerism occur due to the difference in the position of any substituent atom or group, okay, occupied on the unsaturation or any kind of carbon chain. For example, if we take the bromobutane here, in one bromobutane here, bromine is attached to first carbon atom. Then when it is shifted to the second carbon atom, then it is called 2-bromobutane. So the position of bromine has changed, but both 1-bromobutane and 2-bromobutane has the same molecular formula, but the position of bromine is only different here. So another example, 2-pentanone and 3-pentanone. In 2-pentanone, the position of the ketone is present on the second carbon atom. In 3-pentanone, the keto group is present on the third carbon atom. So that's why it is called 3-pentanone. In third example, ortho dichlorobenzene, and second one is meta-dichlorobenzene. Okay, here the position of one of the chlorine is ortho with respect to the other chlorine group, and in meta-chlorobenzene, the position of one of the chlorine group is in the meta position with respect to the another chlorine group. So that's why the position of the chlorine is changes here. So that's why this comes under positional isomers, and the phenomenon is called positional isomerism. Third kind of isomerism is called functional isomerism. Functional group isomers have the same molecular formula but different functional groups on the chain. For example, ethanol and dimethyl ether have the same chemical formula but different functional group, which are circled in colors, that is alkyl group and ether group. Okay, so both ethanol and dimethyl ether, even though both compounds having the same molecular formula, but the functional groups are different here. So the difference arises because of the arrangement of functional group at different position. Okay, and the entire functional groups also changes. Okay, if you see the example of acetone and propanaldehyde, in acetone main functional group is ketone, and in propanaldehyde it is aldehyde. But both acetone and propanaldehyde has the same molecular formula, but the functional groups are changes. If you see another example of acetic acid, okay, and methyl formate, in acetic acid there is carboxylic acid functional group is present, and in methyl formate an ester group is present. But both acetic acid and methyl formate has the same molecular formula but different functional groups on the chain. So that's why this kind of isomerism is called functional group isomerism. Okay, so second kind of isomerism is called stereoisomerism. Okay, so this stereoisomerism is again of two types. Okay, configurational or stereoisomerism. Second one is conformational isomerism. Stereoisomerism and conformational isomerism. Among these, the first one is stereoisomerism. So this stereoisomerism formed because of the formation of stereoisomers. Okay, and these stereoisomers are of two types: geometrical isomers and optical isomers. Okay, so under these geometrical isomers, again there are two types of isomers are there. They are called cis-trans isomers and EZ isomers. Under optical isomers, there are again two types of isomers are stereoisomers are present. They are called enantiomers and diastereomers. So before that, so what is stereoisomerism? Stereoisomers are molecules that have same molecular formula and sequence of bonded atoms but differ in three-dimensional orientations of their atoms in space. This phenomenon can be further categorized into geometrical and optical isomerism. Okay, so again here the stereoisomers are having same molecular formula but differ in the three-dimensional orientation of their atoms in the space. So we can divide these stereoisomers into two types of isomers: geometrical isomers and optical isomers. There are two types of isomerism is also present under the stereoisomerism: geometrical isomerism and optical isomerism. Okay, so the first one is called geometrical or geometric isomerism. So geometric isomerism occurs due to the restricted rotation about carbon-carbon double bonds or carbon-carbon single bonds in cyclic compounds. Geometric isomers differ in the relative positions of substituents in the rigid molecule. Geometric isomerism is a kind of stereoisomerism. There are two types of notations are possible for the geometric isomers. They are cis-trans isomers and EZ isomers. Okay, so here Most of these geometric isomerism uh, mostly exist in unsaturated compound where carbon-carbon double bonds are present. So we can further classify these geometric isomers into cis-trans isomers and EZ isomers. Okay, so if you see about the cis-trans isomers, these are nothing but cis isomers are two similar groups stay on the same side of the double bond. Then they are called cis isomers. Trans isomers are nothing but these are the two similar groups stay on the opposite side of the double bond. Okay, so cis isomers in which two similar groups stay on the same side of the double bond. For example, cis 2-butene or cis but2ene. Okay, in butene, okay, if you observe, two methyl groups are present in the same side. So any functional groups or any group of atoms which are present on the same side of the double bond, then such isomers are called as cis isomers. Okay, so because of the cis kind of isomers, most of the time there is steric interactions arises within the molecule. Second one are trans isomers. Trans isomers are nothing but these are the isomers which containing two similar groups stay on the opposite side of the double bond. For example, trans 2-butene. So in this trans 2-butene, the two methyl groups, okay, around the carbon double bonds are present in the opposite side of the double bond. Okay, so that's why these are called trans isomers. Okay, second kind of geometric isomers are called EZ isomers. So to determine EZ isomers, first observe the left side of the double bond. Okay, the group with the highest atomic number has the most priority. Then repeat the same step on the right side. Okay, so in order to identify the EZ isomers, so first we have to observe the left side of the double bond. After observing that, first then we have to go for selecting the priorities. So the group with the highest atomic number has the most priority. Okay, then we have to repeat the same step to the right side. Okay, so first we have to select the left side of the double bond. So whatever the number of groups are present, among that we have to give the priority depending upon their atomic number. Then we have to repeat the same process to the right side. Okay, so whatever the atoms are attached to the carbon which are towards the right side to the double bond, again we have to give the priority to those functional groups depending upon their atomic number. Finally, determine whether it is E or Z configuration depending on which sides the group with the most priorities are on. Okay, so for example, if you see the first example, okay, so here 1,2-dichloropropene. Okay, so if you see in that the two chloro groups are okay opposite to each other. Okay, so that's why it comes under E type of isomer. Okay, in second one the two chlorine groups are on the same side. So if the functional groups or atoms are present on the same side, okay, they comes under Z type of isomers. If the functional groups or atoms present on the opposite side of the double bonds, then they call as E isomers. So we can also compare this EZ isomers with the cis trans isomers. Okay, cis isomers are equivalent to the Z isomers and trans isomers are equivalent to the E isomers. Next type of isomerism is called optical isomerism. Optical isomerism is nothing but an asymmetric carbon atom is the one which is bonded to four different groups. The first important point we have to note down in optical isomerism means, so there will be an asymmetric carbon is present which is attached to or which is bonded to four different groups. So optical isomers can occur when there is an asymmetric carbon atom, okay, so which bonded with four different groups. So such type of asymmetric carbon is also called as a chiral carbon atom, and the center is called chiral center. Optical isomerism is one type of stereoisomerism where compounds of same molecular formula have different spatial orientation of their atoms. So these are also optical isomers also have same molecular formula but different spatial orientation of their atoms. They are called optical isomers because they reflect on the plane polarized light. So what is polarized light? First we have to understand what is polarized light. So light is nothing but an electromagnetic wave. The light wave may be thought of an oscillating transverse waves perpendicular to the wave propagation. So the vibration can occur in a plane. Now we look at the light directly from the source of the vibration seems to go up and down like this. So this is two-headed arrow can represent the wave. So light wave in a single plane called polarized light. But light from a source vibrating in many planes. So light having many vibrating planes is called unpolarized light. Now we will pass this unpolarized light through a device called polarimeter. So the optical activity of optical isomers can be identified with the help of a polarimeter. Okay, so how optical activity decides the optical isomers, that we will discuss next. So the isomers which possess the optical activity are called optical isomers. Okay, so optical isomers are named uh, like this because of their effect on plane polarized light. They interact differently with polarized light. These are called optical isomers. Okay, these are the simple substances which show optical isomerism exist as two isomers known as enantiomers. So if we observe these optical isomers, okay, uh, there is any compound containing a carbon atom bound to four different atoms or groups which are called chiral compounds. A mirror image of chiral compound cannot be superimposable from the original. It is called optical isomers. So these optical isomers have identical melting point and boiling points, and also identical densities and solubilities. But however, they have different chemical reactivities. So these are the optical isomers which are sometimes called right-handed or left-handed, because our hands also not superimposable mirror images. Next, important isomers are called enantiomers. So enantiomers are nothing but these are the pair of optical isomers which are non-superimposable mirror images of each other. They are called enantiomers. So enantiomers have identical chemical and physical properties in a chiral environment. So if you see the example of lactic acid, there are two uh, isomers of this lactic acid are present. Okay, S-lactic acid and R-lactic acid. S-lactic acid and R-lactic acid are the non-superimposable mirror images to each other. So that's why they comes under enantiomers. So a solution of one enantiomers rotates the plane polarization in a clockwise direction. This enantiomer is known as the positive form, plus form. So most of these enantiomers rotate the plane polarized light in a clockwise direction when this solution of enantiomers kept in a polarimeter. Okay, so a solution of one enantiomer rotates the plane polarization in a clockwise direction known as positive form of enantiomers, and a solution of the other enantiomers rotate the plane of polarization in an anti-clockwise direction. They are known as the negative form of enantiomers. Okay, if the solutions are equally concentrated, the amount of rotation caused by the two isomers is exactly the same, but in opposite directions. Okay, for example, 2 or 3 are tartaric acid and 2s 3s tartaric acids are stereoisomers that are non-superimposable mirror images. So if you see the example below, okay, both 2 or 3 are plus tartaric acid, which is also called as D-tartaric acid. Another one is 2s 3s minus tartaric acid, which is also called L-tartaric acid. So both are enantiomers to each other because they are mirror images to each other, and their physical properties are also identical, but their optical rotation is different. Okay, D-tartaric acid, the optical rotation is plus 12.4, and in L-tartaric acid the optical rotation is minus 12.4. Okay, so that's why they have two different optical rotations. Second kind of optical isomers are called diastereomers. Okay, these are pair of optical isomers which are non-superimposable and non-mirror images. Okay, so that's why they are called diastereomers. So diastereomers are the isomers which are non-superimposable and non-mirror images of each other. So diastereomers have different chemical properties and physical properties, and also different melting point, different solubility, etc. So because both are non-superimposable and non-mirror images, so that's why both diastereomers have different chemical and physical properties. If you see the example of R2-chloro S3 fluorobutane. Okay, so the first one, both the first one and second one, which are red in color, they are enantiomers to each other. And the down below, S2 chloro, S3 fluorobutane, and R2 chloro, R3 fluorobutane. These are also okay, which are represented in blue color, which are enantiomer to each other, because both the isomers which are present in red color and blue color, okay, with each other they are mirror images. But one red color compound, okay, one R2 chloro S3 fluorobutane and S2 chloro S3 fluorobutane, these are not mirror images and also non-superimposable images. So that's why they are diastereomers. Again, the same thing happens with the other compounds also, like S2 chloro R3 fluorobutane and R2 chloro R3 fluorobutane. These both are again non-superimposable and also non-mirror images. So that's why they are diastereomers to each other. Okay. Next important topic we need to understand is about chirality and symmetry. So what is chirality? So as we discussed in optical activity, so chirality is nothing but a molecule or an object is said to be chiral or dissymmetric if it does not possess any element of symmetry and not superimposable on its mirror image, and this property of the molecule to show non-superimposability is called chirality. Any molecule which is called as a chiral molecule which does not possess any element of symmetry and not superimposable mirror images, they are called chiral compounds and the property is called chirality. On the other hand, a molecule or an object which is superimposable on its mirror images is called a chiral compound. These are also called non-dissymmetric or non-symmetric molecules. Okay, so if you see the examples down below, okay, so these chiral compounds can be represented with our two hands, okay, left hand and right hands. Both our left hand and right hands are mirror images to each other, but they are not superimposable. Okay, so if you see the example of two mirror compounds, two chiral compounds down below here, where carbon is attached to one carboxylic acid and amino group, okay, and also one alkyl group and one hydrogen. Okay, so this compound is exactly mirror images to the other hand molecule. So here if you observe the carbon containing four different functional groups, so that's why they are chiral and they are also mirror images to each other. Okay, if we see the another compound, for example methane CH4, so even though methane containing mirror images, but they can be superimposable, but they are also mirror images, so they called achiral compounds. So achiral compounds are, they might be superimposable mirror images. Okay, but here if you observe the carbon is attached to four hydrogen atoms which are similar to each other. Okay, so that's why this comes under achiral type of compounds. Okay, next one is called elements of symmetry. So a symmetry element is a geometrical entity such as a line, a plane, or a point about which one can perform an operation of rotation, reflection, or inversion. Okay, so symmetry element is nothing but, okay, it is a kind of momentary activity which one can perform, okay, about a plane or a point. So this operation or this performance, okay, can be a rotation performance or a reflection or an inversion thing. Okay, so such kind of elements where we can able to do all these kinds of, okay, geometrical operations, okay, such kind of elements are called symmetry elements. So enantiomerism depends on whether a molecule is not superimposable on its mirror image. If it is superimposable, the molecule is optically inactive, otherwise is optically active. Okay, so based on these elements of symmetry only, enantiomers are identified, and the enantiomerism basically depending upon whether the molecule is non-superimposable or superimposable mirror images. Okay, if it is not superimposable, then it is optically active. If it is superimposable, then it is optically inactive. So based on that, based on the elements of symmetry only, okay, the optical activity of enantiomers were identified. So the most convenient method of inspecting superimposability is to determine whether the molecule has any of the following 4 elements of symmetry. So these elements of symmetry are of 4 types. Among these, first one is called plane of symmetry, which is represented by S. So plane of symmetry is defined as an imaginary plane which divides a molecule in such a way that one half is mirror image of the other half. If we draw an imaginary plane which can be divided any molecule in such a way that one half will be mirror images of the other half. Okay, so such type of symmetry is called plane of symmetry. A molecule with at least a plane of symmetry can be superimposed on its mirror image and is a chiral. So any molecule with containing at least a plane of symmetry, okay, that means it can be superimposed on its mirror image, and that molecule is a chiral molecule. So a molecule that does not have a plane of symmetry is usually chiral. It cannot be superimposed on its mirror image. Okay, so a plane of symmetry may pass through atoms, between atoms, or both. Okay, so it can be the imaginary plane. Okay, it can be passed through the atoms or between the atoms, or sometimes happen from the both. So for example, mesotartaric acid. Okay, if you see the structure of mesotartaric acid, so there are 2 carbon atoms are attached with 3 functional group. Okay, one is hydrogen, another one is OH, and one COH group. So like that, if we draw a plane of symmetry from the middle of the mesotartaric acid, it can divide that mesotartaric acid into equal half. So these are each mirror images to each other. Okay, so that's why this comes under plane of symmetry. But if we observe the chirality of this mesotartaric acid, so there are 2 chiral centers are present here. Okay, if we observe both chiral centers are mirror images to each other. Okay, and also but non-superimposable. So that's why this compound is a chiral compound. Second kind of symmetry element is called center of symmetry or inversion of symmetry, which is represented either with I, small I, or Ci. So a center of symmetry or center of inversion is defined as a point within the molecule such that if an atom is joined to it by a straight line which, if extrapolated to an equal distance beyond it in opposite direction, meets an equivalent atom. In other words, it is a point at which all the straight lines joining identical points in the molecule cross each other. Okay, so this type of symmetry is called center of symmetry. Okay, in simple words, any molecule containing a center atom, a center point, which can able to divide the entire molecule into equal halves, and all this straight line should be go through the same center point. Okay, so this center point which containing all straight lines, okay, can be divide the molecule into equivalent atoms or equivalent parts. Such type of symmetry is called center of symmetry. Okay, if you see the example below, okay, so 2,4-dimethyl cyclobutane 1,3-dicarboxylic acid. So if you see all the molecules, we can draw the imaginary lines through all these functional groups from methyl group, from hydrogens, and from COH groups. So all these imaginary lines can be meet at the center point. So that's why such kind of molecules are able to possess a center of symmetry. Third kind of symmetry element is called simple or proper axis of symmetry, which is represented with Cn. So simple or proper axis symmetry is nothing but it is an imaginary line passing through the molecule in such a way that when the molecule is rotated about by an angle of 360 degrees, an arrangement indistinguishable from the original is obtained. So if you rotate any molecule, okay, by an angle of 360 degrees, so whatever the arrangement, okay, we will get, it can be indistinguishable from the original structure. So such an axis is called n-fold axis of symmetry. Okay, for example, cis 1,3-dimethyl cyclobutane has 2-fold axis of symmetry. So that's why it is represented with the C2. That is, rotation by 180 degrees gives indistinguishable appearance. Okay, if you see the example below, 1,3 dimethyl cyclobutane. Okay, if we rotate by an axis by 180-degree angle, we will get the same structure again. So both structure, the former and the after structure, both are indistinguishable from each other, having the same kind of structural orientation. So that's why such kind of symmetry is called simple or proper axis of symmetry. Fourth kind of symmetry element is called alternating or improper axis of symmetry. So a molecule is said to possess an alternating axis of symmetry, which is represented with Sn. If rotating the molecule about an axis by an angle of 360 degrees or 360 by n degrees, following by reflection in a plane perpendicular to the axis, produces an equivalent structure. Okay, so if you see the example of 1, 2, 3, 4 tetramethyl cyclobutane, okay, so the form A form and B forms are there. Okay, so whenever we rotate the A form around by 90 degrees, we will get the form of B. Both A, B are not same. Okay, and if you see the reflection of the B form, okay, where we will get the again form of A. Okay, reflection through mirror plane perpendicular to the axis of rotation. Okay, again we'll get the same form of A only from B. Okay, so that's why this kind of symmetry is called alternating or improper axis of symmetry. Okay, so next we have to discuss about absolute configuration or RS nomenclature. So in order to give the nomenclature to the chiral carbon atoms or chiral molecules where carbon is attached to 4 different groups or atoms, then we have to follow the RS nomenclature. Okay, so as earlier we discussed that the RS nomenclature is given to these chiral moieties or molecules according to their reactivity towards the polar right. So depending upon the type of atoms or groups are attached to the asymmetric carbon, okay, so certain nomenclature is given to the chiral molecules. Okay, so in order to give RS nomenclature to these chiral molecules, we have to follow certain rules which are provided by Kahn and Ingold. Okay, so according to Kahn and Ingold principles, okay, the first rule that we have to follow in order to give RS nomenclature to the chiral molecules, the first rule is rank the groups or atoms bonded to the symmetric carbon in order of priority. So we have to give priority. We have to give priority to the atoms. According to that priority, we have to give numbers. Okay. So the atomic numbers of the directly attached to the symmetric carbon determine the relative priorities. The higher the atomic number, the higher the priority. So if chiral carbon is attached to different atoms, so depending upon the atomic numbers, we have to give the priority. Okay, so for those atoms whose atomic number is high, first priority is given. Okay, for example, in the first example, carbon is attached to 4 different atoms like chlorine, bromine, methyl and hydrogen. Okay, so here according to the atomic number, bromine has higher atomic number, that is 35. Okay, followed by chlorine, carbon and hydrogen. So that's why, okay, bromine is given first priority, followed by chlorine, followed by carbon, and hydrogen is the lower priority whose atomic number is 1 only. So that's why it has given 4th priority. So according to that, okay, the priority is given depending upon the atomic number of the atoms or groups are attached to the chiral carbon atoms. Okay, if this chiral carbon atom is attached to same kinds of atoms, okay, so then here the priority is shifted to the next atom which is attached to the chiral carbon. Okay, for example, if the chiral carbon is attached to one methyl group and one ethyl group, okay, so the priority is higher priority is given to the ethyl group than the methyl group, because in ethyl group, okay, after CH2, okay, the 4th atom is again carbon repeating whose atomic number is 6. Okay, if you see in methyl, okay, there are 3 hydrogen atoms are attached to the carbon whose atomic number is 1 only. Okay, so that's why atomic number of hydrogen is always less than the carbon. So that's why ethyl group is given the higher priority. Okay, so if there are molecules like hydroxyl group, tertiary methyl, and N-ethyl and N-methyl, okay, so the priority will be given like this. Okay, hydroxyl is greater than Okay, tertiary methyl is greater than an ethyl or methyl is greater than the hydrogen. So depending upon the atomic number, and also sometimes depending upon the atomic weight also we have to give the priorities. Whose atomic weight is more, it is given the first priority. But based on the atomic weight is given the second importance. First importance we have to give depending upon the atomic numbers only. Okay, so mostly we have to follow giving the priorities based on the atomic numbers only. Third rule discusses about if an atom is doubly bonded to the another atom, the priority system treats it as if it were singly bonded to two of those atoms. If an atom is triply bonded to another atom, the priority system treats it as if it were singly bonded to three of those atoms. Okay, so if there is a double bond between two carbon atoms, it means each carbon atom is attached to two more atoms. For example, if you see in ethylene, okay, there is a double bond between two carbon atoms. It means two carbon atoms are further attached to, okay, one carbon and one hydrogen atoms each. Okay, if you see in ethylene, there is a triple bond between two carbon atoms. It means each carbon atom is attached to three more atoms. Okay, so like that, the priority system always treats depending upon the number of bonded atoms or number of the bonds between the two carbon atoms. Okay. Fourth point discusses about if two atoms have substituents of the same priority, higher priority is assigned to the atom with more of these substituents. Okay. So according to fourth rule, if carbon atom having more substituents, okay, that molecule has given the higher priority. Okay, in this example, carbon is attached to two chlorine atoms. In another example, carbon is attached to one chlorine atom only. So that's why the molecule which is attached to two chlorine atoms, which is higher substituted, will be always given the higher priority than the lower substituted molecule. Okay, so that is the fourth rule. So if you see the fifth rule of RS nomenclature, okay, in the case of isotopes, okay, if there are isotopes are there, isotopes are nothing but these are the atoms with same atomic number but different mass number, right? So the mass number is used to determine the relative priorities here. So if we see two isotopes like deuterium and hydrogen, so deuterium mass number is always more than the hydrogen. So that's why whatever the compound containing deuterium always given the highest priority than the hydrogen containing molecules. Okay. Sixth rule is so after giving priorities, how we have to give the nomenclature. It is RS nomenclature is given by drawing an arrow starting from the priority 1 and going to the priority 2 and then to priority 3. Okay. So for example, in this example, okay, the chiral carbon atom is attached to one bromine group, one methyl group, okay, one ethoxy group and one hydrogen group. So according to atomic number, first we have to give the priorities. So bromine, whose atomic number is 35, so it has given first priority because of the highest atomic number. Okay, so second one is oxygen, ethoxy group, where oxygen attached to the methyl group. So oxygen atomic number is more than the carbon, so that's why here oxygen has given the second priority, followed by the carbon where methyl group is present, and the lowest priority is given to the hydrogen. So here we have to draw an arrow starting from the priority 1 towards the 2 to 3. Okay, so that's how we can draw an arrowing system. Okay, if this arrow draws towards the clockwise manner, okay, then it is given the R configuration. Okay, so R configuration is nothing but the clockwise configuration. If the arrow goes clockwise, like in this case, the absolute configuration is R. Okay, as opposed to this, if the arrow goes counterclockwise or anti-clockwise, then the absolute configuration is S. For example, in the following molecule, the priorities goes to chlorine greater than nitrogen, greater than to carbon, greater than to hydrogen. According to the atomic number, anti-clockwise or counterclockwise direction of the arrow indicates the S absolute configuration. Okay, so in this example, the chiral carbon is attached to chlorine, followed by NH2, followed by ethyl group and hydrogen group. Okay, so according to the atomic number priorities, okay, chlorine whose atomic number is high, so that's why chlorine is given first priority, followed by nitrogen, which amino group contain nitrogen, okay, whose priority is given second, followed by the ethyl group where carbon is given to the third priority, and as it is for hydrogen is the lowest priority. So again we have to draw the arrow mark which starting from the first priority group towards the second and third. So here where we have got the anti-clockwise or counterclockwise direction of the arrow, which indicates the S absolute configuration. So here we have to remember clockwise means R configuration, counterclockwise, anti-clockwise means S configuration. Simply you can remember, okay, CR and CS or ACS. CR means clockwise R configuration, okay. ACS means anti-clockwise S direction or S configuration. Like that you can remember CR and ACS. Okay, clockwise R configuration, anti-clockwise S configuration. Now let's see what would be the absolute configuration of the enantiomers. So we know that enantiomers are the non-superimposable mirror images. That's we call enantiomers. Okay. So in the case of mirror images are enantiomers. Okay. So whatever the actual enantiomers, okay, according to the priorities, okay, always you have to give the direction configuration. Okay. So here in the following example, okay, that we have taken from the earlier example, okay, the molecule has given R configuration. Here we have to remember always that the mirror images of enantiomers are always given the opposite configuration. For example, if the molecule contains the R configuration, its mirror image always contains the S configuration. Okay, so the priorities are still the same since all the groups around the carbon are same, starting from the bromine and going to the oxygen and then carbon. Okay, we can see that this time the arrow goes the anti-clockwise. Okay, yes. Okay, in the mirror image we are talking here. So if the arrow goes counterclockwise, the absolute configuration is S. This is another important thing to remember. Okay, next, all the chirality centers in enantiomers are inverted. It means every R is S and every S is R in the enantiomer. So as the enantiomers are the mirror images, okay, so if the configuration of the enantiomer is R, then its mirror images configuration is S, or vice versa. Okay, so we discussed the roles of priorities 1, 2 and 3, but what about the lowest priority? We did not mention anything about the arrow going to it. Is it part of the game and how do you use it? Okay, so the lowest priority does not affect the direction of the arrow. However, this is very important and it is a requirement when assigning the R and S configuration that the lowest priority must point away from the wear. Okay, so here what we have to remember is always the lowest priority group must point away from the wear. So the fourth priority group or the lowest priority should be away from the wear always. In other words, the lowest priority must be a dashed line to assign the R and S based on the direction of the arrow as we just did. With that in mind, how can we assign the absolute configuration of this molecule where the hydrogen is a wedge line pointing towards us? Okay, so in wedge and dashed line structure, we already knew that, okay, if any atom is bonded with a wedge line, it means it is towards the wear, and if it is if the atom is bonded with a dashed line, okay, it means always away from the wear. So in order to assign the R and S configuration in any chiral molecule, okay, the lowest priority group must be a dashed line. Okay, so what if the atom is the lowest priority atom is attached to a wedge line? Okay, so that we need to understand here. So R and S when lowest priority is a wedge group. So here the following example, chiral carbon atom is attached to 4 different groups here, where the priority 1 is given to the chlorine group, followed by the second priority is given to the hydroxy group, and third priority is given to the methyl group. Okay, okay, as usually the hydrogen is given as a fourth group. Okay, so the lowest priority hydrogen group is attached to the chiral carbon with a wedged bond. It means the hydrogen is towards us. So in order to give R and S configuration, always the lowest priority should be on a dash line. So in such cases, here we have two options. Okay, option 1, turn the molecule 180 degrees such that the hydroxyl pointing now towards you and the hydrogen is pointing away as it is supposed to be for determining R and S configuration. Okay, so in order to convert the wedge bonded lowest priority atom, we have to turn the molecule 180 degrees. Then what happens here? The lowest priority atom, okay, which is attached to a wedge bond will be converted to a dash line. Okay, so here in the example that you can observe, so by rotating the molecule here, the lowest priority hydrogen atom converted to a dash line. Okay, so that's how we have to rotate the molecule 180 degrees, and we have to give the R&S configuration. Okay, next assign the priorities after what we have did last time. So after that we have to give the priorities. Okay, so here the configuration of the above molecule gave a clockwise configuration, that is R. Okay, in next option where R and S when group 4, that is lowest priority group, is not a wedge or a dash. Okay, so in other case where the lowest priority group, okay, neither a wedge bonded atom or nor a dashed line atom. Okay, so in such cases what happens, there is a third possibility for the position of group 4, and that is when it is neither pointing away or towards you. This means we cannot just switch the configuration at the end as we did when group 4 was a wedge line. For this, there is simple yet such useful trick making life a lot easier. Remember this, swapping any two groups on a chiral center inverts its absolute configuration, that is R to S, S to R. Okay, so here what we have to do, if the lowest priority group neither belongs to a wedge bond or nor a dash line, then what we have to do, we have to swap any two atoms which are attached to the chiral molecules. Okay, by swapping that, what we can do, we can invert the configuration from S to R or R to S. Okay, so in the above example, so where the chiral carbon attached atom is attached to four different atoms like hydroxy, chloro, methyl and ethyl. Here methyl group is the lowest priority one. Okay, which is not neither wedged line nor dash line. So that's why what we have to do, we have to swap both OH and Cl, okay, with each other, and we will get an R configuration. Okay, again here the methyl group is not at all changed, so that's why again we have to swap OH and ethyl groups, where the R configuration turns to S configuration. So notice that these are the different molecules. Okay, whenever we swap the molecules, each time we will get the different kinds of molecules. We are not talking about the rotating around an axis or a single bond, in which case the absolute configurations must stay the same. We are actually converting to a different molecule by swapping the groups, make it is easier determining the R and S configuration. Okay, so for example, determine the absolute configuration of the following chiral center. So here in the following example, a chiral molecule is given where the chiral carbon atom is attached to a bromo group and an aldehyde, okay, and a ethyl group and methyl group. Okay, so according to the atomic number, the priorities are given. Okay, first priority is given to the bromine, second priority is given to the aldehyde, and third one given to the ethyl group. So methyl has got the fourth priority, but this fourth priority or lowest priority neither belongs to dash line or nor a wedge line. So that's why here what we have to do, we have to swap the molecules. So the lowest priority group is in the drawing plane. So what we can do is swap it with the one that is pointing away from us, that is bromine. So after determining R and S, we have to switch the result, since swapping means changing the absolute configuration, and we need to switch it back again. So here what we have to do, we have to swap the lowest priority with the first priority, that is bromine. So after swapping, we have to give the R and S configuration by drawing the arrow. Okay, here what happened here, we have switched the fourth group with the first group, okay, bromo group. Okay, then according to the drawing configuration, here we have got S configuration. Okay, so but whenever we switch the molecules, we are entirely changing the molecule. Okay, so properties of the molecules also we change. So in order to get the RS configuration, once we swap the molecules, again we have to reverse the configuration. Means after swapping, we get the S configuration. Okay, the actual configuration of the original molecule will be always opposite to that configuration. So it is R configuration. Okay, the arrows goes counterclockwise indicating S configuration, and this means the original molecule is R configuration. Okay, so like that here by swapping Okay, whatever the configuration that we get, opposite to that we will get the actual configuration of the original molecule. Okay, next important topic that we have to cover is conformational analysis of n-butane. So this conformation analysis of n-butane actually discuss about the conformational isomerism of organic molecules. Okay, so in order to understand that, first we have to understand what are conformers. Okay, what are conformational isomers? Okay, so conformation is a property of atoms in which rotation of groups about a carbon-carbon single bond takes place. The rotation usually results in different spatial arrangements of the atoms. Likewise, conformation isomers are a type of stereoisomers where we can convert one isomer to another one just by rotating around a single bond. Okay, so let us further understand the concept with the help of an example here. Okay, by taking the butane as an example. So from that above, if any molecule, okay, where the property of atoms will be changed by rotation of a carbon-carbon single bond takes place. Okay, so what happened? The spatial arrangement of the atoms also changes. So whatever the isomers that we get just by rotating the carbon atoms around a single bond, those isomers are called conformational isomers, and the isomerism is called conformational isomerism. Okay, so here the example of butane is taken. So we will take the example of conformers of butane. So we look at the structure of the butane and draw the Newman projections. We will get the structure as given below. Means here we will get 4 different types of structures. Okay, so in butane, the middle 2 carbon atoms are taken into Newman projections. Draw the following, 4 types of Newman projections to the butane. Okay, so here what happened here, according to the rotation of the one of the carbon atom, okay, we will get 4 important types of conformers for the butane. Okay, they are fully eclipsed conformation, Gaussian conformation or staggered conformation. Third one is eclipsed conformation and staggered conformation or anti-conformation. Okay, so here all these conformations of butanes that we got just by rotating one of the carbon atom, okay, for every 60 degrees of rotation. So butane is an alkane with the presence of CC bonds. Normally when we rotate the molecule of butane at the axis of CC bond, it shows different conformational isomerism. Generally, butane has 4 conformation isomers which are fully eclipsed, Gaussian, eclipsed and anti-butane conformational isomers. So let us discuss these isomers below. Okay, when we look at the chemical structure of butane, we can see that it has 2 substituents which are methyl groups attached to the 2 end carbon atoms. The methyl group is comparatively larger than hydrogen atoms. However, we can also see that everything on the front side is eclipsing with the structure in the back side. So one methyl group is present in front of the other methyl group, and the other hydrogen atoms are kept at the back of other hydrogen atoms. In short, the structure is completely eclipsing or they are fully eclipsed. Now, if we rotate the front methyl group by 60 degrees or with the dihedral angle 60 degrees, then there is a formation of Gaussian or staggered conformation. It basically has the presence of identical groups at 60 degrees from one another. This type of conformation is more stable as there is a little steric hindrance between the same molecules. Okay, so here if we make the dihedral angle as 120 degrees, then this form of isomer is also known as eclipsed conformation. However, this eclipsed form is quite different from the previous fully eclipsed state. The basic difference is that in this the methyl group is eclipsing the hydrogen atom and not the methyl group. On rotating the isomer at an angle of 180 degrees, the 2 methyl groups are found to lie exactly opposite to each other. This conformation is known as staggered conformation or anti-conformation. Okay, so usually each conformer is interconverted to the same forms by rotating the isomer around the central carbon single bond. Eclipsed conformer can be converted back into Gaussian conformation by rotating it 60 degrees, and when an eclipse is rotated by 180 degrees, it forms anti-conformer. Okay, so rotation of anti-butane by 120 degrees again leads to the formation of the Gaussian conformer. Okay, so like that here, for rotating every 60 degrees of angle, okay, whenever we rotate one of the carbon atom around the single bond, okay, we will get a different conformers of butanes. So the ranking of the conformation isomers is given as follows, taking into the account of energy levels from the lowest to the highest. So where we get anti-Gaussian eclipsed and fully eclipsed conformation. Okay, so this can be also visualized using an energy diagram. So an energy diagram is drawn by taking dihedral angles on x-axis and energy on y-axis, where we get an energy diagram. Okay, so according to this energy diagram, as the dihedral angle start from 0 to 60 degrees, what happened here, the energy of the conformers of butane decreases. Okay, so what happens here, from the energy diagram what we observed, whenever the eclipsed conformations of butane were observed, okay, the energy was taken at a higher amount. Okay, and whenever the staggered conformation, when we observe the energy level of butane conformers, okay, we have observed as low as mentioned in the diagram. Okay, so it also indicates that whenever the energy of these conformers decreases as we get the staggered conformers of butane, the stability of those butane is also increasing. So as energy is less, okay, the stability of the molecule is increases, and in vice versa, whenever the energy of the conformers of butanes are high in eclipsed conformation, the stability will become less. Okay, so this is the phenomenon that we can observe from the energy diagram of n-butane conformal isomers.